Bellingwood Vignettes by Diane Greenwood Muir. Book 11, Vignette number 2, Decisions. I'll be at the barn all day today, Mom. Jason started out the back door while Sylvie was still on her first cup of coffee. What time is it? She asked, squinting at him over her mug. She was in her robe and her hair was all over the place. He didn't see her like this very often, but she had worked late the night before at the coffee shop trying to get things put together the way she liked them. About 5:30. I told Eliseo I'd be there early. We're cleaning out the barn. He said everything was getting clean today. You don't want to ride? Jason shrugged. It's not that far. But next year I'm going to have a car, right? His mom nodded and dropped her head back into her hands, peering down into the mug. We'll talk about it later. Go on then. Leave me in peace. He pulled the door shut and ran out the back door and through the backyard, making sure the gate latch was shut. Padme had gotten out last week and the whole family panicked. She was gone overnight and he never wanted to face that again. His mom and Andrew had both cried and he felt sick to his stomach. They'd walked the entire neighborhood until his mom made them stop at 10. Padme wore a collar with tags and Doc Ogden had put a chip in her, but Jason created horrible images of her lost or stolen, never finding her way home again. He'd had bad dreams, too. That night, he and Andrew had promised each other they would walk her all over town so she could mark her territory and recognize smells. They'd done pretty good so far. The next morning, Andrew had stayed home while he and Sylvie went to Sycamore House. It felt weird to wake up without the dog jumping on his bed to lick his face. They'd all been quiet that morning. Nobody said much. Andrew said he'd walk around the neighborhood in the daylight and look in some of the yards, just in case someone took her in for the night and didn't hear them yelling for her. Jason was the first person to the barn that morning, and when he opened the door, he was barreled over by a very happy dog. He'd called his mom from the barn phone to tell her that Padme was there, and she let him call home to tell Andrew. Nobody could figure out how she'd known to come here, but he was glad she'd considered this place a second home. He tugged on the latch one more time, and when he was sure it wouldn't give way, he headed to Sycamore House. Dawn was breaking, and it was still cool. Humidity was heavy in the air, and he knew that meant he'd be sweating today. Eliseo wouldn't quit until they were done, no matter how hot it was. At least part of the job would be washing out the barn with cold water. That would help. Jason still couldn't believe that Polly had done all this work by herself before Eliseo showed up. She was crazy nuts. Smiling as he walked, he thought about how his life changed when he met her. She was like a really cool aunt. She didn't let him get away with stupid stuff, but she also talked to him like a normal person. He could tell her anything. Jason's face flushed as he thought back to his crush on her. He really thought that she liked him that way. He'd been jealous of Henry, but in the back of his mind he knew that was ridiculous. She was like 20 years older than him. He crossed the highway and walked through the garden on the corner. It was pretty and all, but he was more proud of the work they'd done with the horses, clearing land on the other side of the creek. Eliseo planned to put sweet corn out there and told Jason that if he wanted to make money, they could put in potatoes and sell them at the farmer's market. That would be too late for Jason to buy a car, but it would help with insurance and gas. That was the deal he was going to make with his mom. He'd buy the car and pay for the difference in her insurance. She had to let him. He was going to get real tired of taking the bus to school every day. Sylvie had already told him she wasn't comfortable with letting him ride to school with Nick or Scar. Dang, he hoped she'd get over that before school started. They were here all the time working with him and Eliseo in the barn. Surely she'd see that they weren't the same kind of kids he got in trouble with last year. Eliseo pulled up beside him as he approached the first gate. He waited for the man to get out of his car. Good morning, Eliseo said. Are you ready? Jason shrugged. I guess. What time are your friends coming? I told them to be here about 6:30. I figured that would give us time to make a plan. Eliseo clapped his hand on Jason's shoulder as he opened the barn door. That's smart. We always need a plan. Do you think the horses are up yet? They usually aren't until the sun comes up, Jason said. We're still a little early. Eliseo flipped on the lights and called out, Good morning, sunshines. Are you ready for the day? He grinned as they heard horses scrambling for their feet. They're up. Except for Demi. He's a slug. Jason walked over to the horse's stall and pointed. See? I told you. Get up, you lazy butt. We have work to do today. Demi came to his feet and walked over for a head rub. Jason thought back to the first time he'd seen these horses. He had felt so small next to them. A couple of years later, he gained inches and they stayed the same. It wasn't quite so intimidating anymore, and he knew them as well as he knew anyone else in his life. He wished his brother was more comfortable around the horses. He couldn't believe that Andrew was still scared. They couldn't get him to ride for anything. He'd get in the wagon or on the sleigh, but he refused to get on the back of one of the horses, which was weird because Rebecca and Kayla loved to ride. "Let's get 'em fed first," Eliseo said. "They'll be much easier to work with." "Can we talk for a minute?" Jason asked. Eliseo stopped walking and turned around. "Sure. About what?" "Football." Eliseo gave him an understanding look and sat down on an empty bench. He pointed to the one across the alley. Jason had to move things to find a space. That was one of the reasons Eliseo insisted on cleaning. Today, everything was finding a home or leaving the building. He couldn't take any more clutter. The donkeys came in to see what was going on, and Jason scratched behind Tom's ears. When Huck realized his buddy was getting attention, he wandered over to see what Eliseo might offer. "Now, what about football?" Eliseo asked. "I don't want to." "Okay, that's fine. You shouldn't have to. But Coach says I'd be good at it, and if I work hard, I might get a college scholarship." "Is it the hard work that scares you?" Eliseo grinned as he said the words. But Jason didn't understand the grin. "No, you know I don't mind hard work. I do stuff down here all the time that most city boys never do." I was kidding," Eliseo said. "I do know that. So tell me what's on your mind." "If I go out for football, I won't have any time to be here. There's morning practices and every day after school, and then it's Friday nights, and if I play JV, it's other nights. How will I ever have time to get everything done? I mean, a scholarship would be great, but you have to get grades too, and I won't have time for schoolwork. And what if I want to date? When will I have time? And I was just starting to make money here with the extra jobs you've been giving me, and Mr. Bedford asked me to help over at his place." "Whoa," Eliseo said. "Stop talking for a minute. All of those are reasonable objections, but none of them make any difference if you want to play ball. Do you want to?" Jason took a deep breath and wrinkled his nose. "Not really. But Mom signed the permission paper for me. Do you think she wants me to play? She said that Dad played when he was in high school, and you did too. Am I a wimp if I don't?" Eliseo chuckled. "No, you're the farthest thing from a wimp that I know. If you don't play, will you feel like you've missed out?" "Missed out on what? Getting smacked around on a football field under bright lights so we can take a ball over a line?" "Okay, I guess not," Eliseo said, laughing. "That's one way to look at it. The game doesn't hold any appeal for you?" "Not playing it. I like going to the games with my friends, and I think I'd like to watch more college football, but we don't do that at my house." "Then I don't think football is for you," Eliseo said, sitting forward. "You are a big kid with great coordination and a lot of heart. That's what your coach sees. What he doesn't see is that you don't love the game. You don't even really like it. It's okay to have other things you like to do. I just hate to see you miss out because you think you can't fit it into your life. There's always room in your life to do things that you really want to do." Jason nodded. "I really don't want to. I'd rather be here." "Well, I'd rather have you here then. I've gotten quite used to your help and your company. It would get lonely without you. And I haven't climbed up into the haymow in months, thanks to you. Don't want to start that again." "Do you think people will be disappointed if I'm not on the team? I heard Henry and Polly talking about coming down to the games if I played, and I know Henry likes football." "Nobody will be disappointed in you," Eliseo said, "especially Polly. She just wants you to be happy and doing what you love." "So," Jason's voice grew quiet, "even if I don't go out for the team, would you teach me the rules and how to play?" "You've never played football?" Eliseo was surprised. "Not really, just kid stuff. We tossed it around some on the playground. Mom didn't let us do much." "She didn't?" Jason thought about it, then shook his head. "No, that's not right. She just didn't know all the things we should be doing. She had it pretty rough raising us by herself. She worked all the time." He glanced toward the main building. "She still does. But now it's because she likes it, not because she has to put food on the table. I'd love to teach you how to play football. They looked up at the sound of the door opening. In fact, Eliseo said, maybe we'll get a big screen down here and watch some college ball on Saturday afternoons this fall. And if you like it, I'll introduce you to my Chargers on Sundays. San Diego? Nick asked. We watch the Vikings at my house. Packers at my house, his buddy Scar said, punching Nick's shoulder. There's plenty for everyone, Eliseo said, standing up. It's good to see you boys. We thought we'd have everything ready when you got here, but you're early. Are you ready to work?